It is good to be back. It's good to feel back and to finally get to do this the right way. It feels a little strange. It's been a few weeks since I've done it, but here we go.
My name is Dom Douglas, and I am back-to-back XWW Commentator of the Year. With that comes some responsibilities, but also a lot of fun and excitement, and I'm never ashamed to look like a complete fool. Speaking of that, I love playing Magic the Gathering, so much so that I kind of think I play it a little bit too much, and I have some opinions. So now, XtremeTVOnline.com and XWW Wrestling on YouTube presents my podcast where I talk about Magic the Gathering. It's the Goblin Grenade Podcast.
That is right, folks. The Goblin Grenade Podcast once again coming back. Big shout outs to all the people watching here. It's a little weird to think of it that when I was on vacation in Jersey, one of my episodes just popped off with almost 10,000 views. That's crazy to me. This time though, it's not Magic-ish. It's more Diablo 4 and another game, Path of Exile, that I've played for a long time. Just don't really admit to it as much. We'll get to it in a little bit, but we'll hit that Bloomburrow thing up that everybody else and their mother has done for Bloomburrow. Yeah, it's a set. It's gonna be awesome. I guess I get to do pre-release on Sunday because I'm booked on Friday and Saturday for shows, so I gotta wind up doing that on Sunday. But I'm excited for the set. I'm excited to draft this set, the environments that they've created, the two-color concept of draft. If you stick to those two colors, you should have a focused deck no matter what. They definitely made an attempt at that from what they said. I haven't checked out any of the other spoilers. I'm not going to do spoilers because everybody's done them and you don't want to watch them. And I'm just going to say this about Bloomburrow, man. It's going to be an awesome set. It's going to be fun. And it's going to add some key pieces to my Chatterfang deck, not only in the base set, but also in that commander deck. So I'm going to probably wind up having two commander squirrel decks after this, just like I have two commander energy decks now because I got the 4 Science Fallout commander deck, and then I got for like $35 on TCG Player, plus, with shipping included, it was like $37. With shipping included, the energy deck for Modern Horizons 3. So I combined the two together, made a pretty good Fallout energy deck while keeping the majority of the Fallout cards in there as much as I could. And then I'm going to do the same with that energy deck. I'm going to make a decently adequate energy deck out of that if I can with the remaining cards from both sets that I've done that to. So that's Bloomburrow. I'm going to get me some draft on. I'm going to get a pre-release in. I'm going to get a bundle. I'm going to get the Squirrel Commander deck at least. So we'll see about that. Now, the rest of this podcast is going to be Diablo 4, Spiritborn, and Path of Exile 3's newest season that's coming out in a couple of days from the time of this video. Diablo 4 dropped the Spiritborn reveal, and then like 2 hours after that, if that, Path of Exile dropped their biggest season yet. So we're gonna comb over as much as I can of the Spiritborn because I'll be fully honest. Season 5, from what I've been seeing on people playing the PTR and their experiences on that, I don't have high hopes because it's the odd numbered dev team. We know the odd numbered dev team, to their dismay, have barely been able to hit a single in the park for the baseball terms, whereas the even numbered dev team has hit 2 straight home runs in season 2 and season 4. Season 2, season 4 have been absolute home runs, save the game type of seasons. 1, 3, and 5, 1 and 3, not so much. Season 1 damn near killed the game before it even got any legs up off the ground. Season 3, did one or two things really well, but everything else was absolute dog shit. And Season 5 looks to kind of be mediocre at best. The waves of enemies concept doesn't seem too keen on compelling gameplay or keeping me coming back to level multiple characters to 100. We're going to hit that whirlwind barb 100 again, even with the massive amount of nerfs. I'm still going to roll my barb, whirlwind in Diablo 4, just like I did in Diablo 3. I rode that wave to Diablo 3, Diablo 2. I even rock a barb out for poops and giggles because Barbarian Whirlwind is not where you want to be in Diablo 2 or Diablo 2 Resurrected. But I love the spin the wind barbs. I'm not going to lie. And Path of Exile may feed that itch because Season 5 is definitely not looking good. But the one saving grace, it does coincide with at the same time that the Vessel of Hatred launches with the Spiritborn. So I think what may wind up happening is Season 5 drops in like early August, like a week and a half from now, week or 2 weeks from now. There's recording this video, July 23rd, and it may be a wet fart, and then Vessel of Hatred with the Spiritborn comes out, and it's just the player count naturally, just from the expansion coming out, will peak. And apparently we're going to go into some uncharted territory with the Diablo games themselves, because it looks like this is not going to be the first expansion. There may be multiple expansions for Diablo 4. And you may say, that's not all that weird to say. Diablo 1 had Hellfire. Diablo 2 had Disciples of Apocalypse, I think. I have it, and I just can't be bothered to look it up. Diablo 3 had the Necromancer. Each Diablo 1, 2, and 3 only had one expansion introducing one new class, except for the first game, but, it's a totally different thing. I think it introduced two new classes, the Hellfire expansion for the first game. But each canonical Diablo 1, 2, and 3 have only had one expansion with one extra class involved. And they kind of alluded to the fact during this live stream event that, without saying it, there's going to be multiple expansions to this game. I'm kind of okay with that. Even if there's one more, and it's just nothing but a couple of classes. That's it. But I get the distinct feeling, as they've prepared to make this game last for 10 years of playing, and Destiny's done it to rather some success and some failure. Destiny 2 has done it. There's games out there that, look at Diablo 2. The fan base is still playing that game, and there's been, except for seasons and some, like weapons and runes, nothing content related new has come out of that game in 10 years. 10 years. And from what I understand, the seasons in Diablo 2 Resurrected and Diablo 2 don't add anything. They're there. They're your typical normal ass ladder seasons. And Diablo 3 is the one that brought out like some interesting mechanics with each season. And Diablo 3 is evergreening right now, where it's just going to repeat the same schedule of seasons. So I could be wrong about Diablo 2 Resurrected. I've never played ladder on it. Or even when it was Diablo 2, and I've been playing that game forever. But, Diablo 3 was my first experience with new content and seasons, along with Path of Exile. So to see new seasons and new expansion, that's why I thought we were going to get one expansion and one new character, and that's it. And it's probably not going to be it. So the Spiritborn is a new class, jungle-based, with animal familiars to buff or debuff your enemy, to buff your attacks or debuff your enemies. It's going to be a fast agility-based class, and they devoted their life to spirits. The spirit realm, where has it been? It was a byproduct of Sanctuary, and it's been untouched by angels or demons. If you don't know the lore of Diablo 4 or Diablo itself, Sanctuary was was created when an angel and a demon said, fuck this war. Yeah, it's 10 minutes. Fuck the eternal conflict. We want some peace and quiet. So they created Sanctuary. So it was an angel and a demon getting together and creating it. And that's how humanity was created. And they accidentally created these other beings. And it's a whole mess. So heaven and hell have been at war since the beginning of time. People got tired of it on both sides, created Sanctuary. That's why humanity are a mix of good and evil, because we are, in the lore of Diablo 4, mix of good and evil. The spirit realm has been untouched by either angels or demons. It is a creation. So yeah, and in this, there's 4 spirits that you can use. We'll get a little further in. Rezakoa is the jaguar, Balazar is the centipede, Huatli is the eagle, and Woomba is the gorilla. And I probably missaid every single one of those names because I have not looked at a single bit since the trailer dropped, since this live podcast, the live stream of the Spiritborn dropped. It is heavily based. The Spirit Realm is also heavily based on Akarat. The lore of him and their story in Diablo franchise is known. He was a prophet. They were a prophet, and Akarat discovered the veil that was untouched between humanity and spirits. That's why they take on the form of those animals, because they manifest to beliefs. And then the reason why they've kept, the Spiritborn have kept quiet, they fight their entire lives to maintain and control the spirit realm, to be a Spiritborn. They even go into explanations that only the top percent get a chance to become a Spiritborn, and most of those that get chosen do not survive. So that was kind of messed up. So the Spiritborn are busy being Spiritborn because they don't have much else to do. And the back lore is the fact that Mephisto's Soulstone did actually, at one point, go to the Spirit Realm, where this is going to be kept, where the main base of Vessel of Hatred is. And it did a lot of damage that, to this day, the Spiritborn are still recovering from. And then when Mephisto's Soul Gem gets brought back, they have to step into action because, great, this is back. So yeah, that's why the Spiritborn haven't been really seen in Diablo 3 or even Diablo 4, because they've been recovering from Mephisto's last encounter with the Soulstone there, and now they have to, because it's been brought back. This is the part that kind of upset me a little bit. The art and design was inspired by martial arts and spirit armor, and the armor is really there not to protect, but to embody what they're trying to go for, like who they're trying to represent, like the jaguar, the centipede, the eagle, the gorilla. And I should go now because I forgot. Huatli is the eagle and Woomba is the gorilla. I forgot to mention those. That's not the part that upset me. They feel like they jokingly created a new martial arts style. From what they were describing, okay? From what they were describing with the martial arts style of combining Muay Thai, boxing, MMA, and other martial arts disciplines involving weapons, there's already a name. It's called fucking Wushu, okay? And I'm not a practitioner of Wushu. I don't know much about the inner workings of Wushu, but I'm a huge Jet Li fan. My Jet Li collection is pretty baller. I have a lot of DVDs, especially in my younger days where I was collecting these things, because you couldn't necessarily find them in many places. I'll show you right now if I can get access or have ease of use between the horror movies and Jet Li films. That's all I collected in DVDs when I was young. I might know a thing or two. And that's just the DVDs. That's not even the VHS tapes. So yeah, I might know a thing or two from what they were describing. And I'm like, yeah, it's wushu. You did not invent a new martial art. You just kind of wanted to say that. That's the part that upset me a little bit. Also, and my note says literally I'm a Jet Li mark. Like, who owns some of these movies? Like, the best one is this, New Legend of Shaolin, okay? Shit. No, I'm sorry. No, it's this movie. This movie was his first movie, and he's in it for 5 minutes, okay? 5 minutes, okay? That's all he's in there for. I watched this movie one time, and it had one of the most horrifying scenes I've ever seen. I like Jet Li a little bit. I like martial arts movies, especially Eastern martial arts movies. And, you know, that's just kind of because I like The Matrix 1 so well that my friend Daryl D-Man introduced me to a couple places in Vinyl, New Jersey to go find some of these martial arts movies, and that's how that saga of my life started. So it was going to there, going to Suncoast Video when they existed, and, you know, all these, you know, For Your Entertainments and FYE, you know, yeah, just trying to find any martial arts movies. And it's, at the time, I'm old, yeah, I know, because I name drop Suncoast and VHS is buying a new VHS, okay? I've had to do that a couple of times. But what I am getting at from the gameplay of and the style at this moment is it's definitely a mixture of the Monk and the Witch Doctor from 3. The Monk was a martial arts hand-based, you know, hand and foot-based, you know, weaponry. But this one's using weapons. So, you know, and the Witch Doctor had some animals that it would use in its kit, but were manifest. So I'm guess it's a blend of that, which isn't not familiar. It is familiar to Diablo 3 players. Unfamiliar if you've only played 4, which, okay, it happens. But if it's unfamiliar, it's actually a good thing, because this gameplay style is drastically different than the other classes so far. I know everybody was like, oh, Paladin this and Paladin that, and it's not a Paladin. Yes, I get it. Paladin would be a good class to add next. It would. You don't need Paladins yet, because Paladins have been in 2 and 3, and I don't know, like, it's just a bigger version of a barbarian at this point. That's what it would be. They would need to rework the Paladin class. You can't import the Paladin class from 3 into 4. It just wouldn't work, because Barbarian already exists. And even with the nerfs to Barbarian that have, once again, Barbarians, man, in Diablo 4, man, we're a rough class to main because we got nerfed again. Pretty harshly, I might add. So as I said, it definitely buffs, you know, depending on the spirit that you're using, and it buffs and debuffs. The Jaguar is fast attacks, constant DPS, and it focuses on attack speed. Each Guardian has its own distinct playstyle too. Gorilla is protection, defense. It's a tank-like build. There's your almost Paladin-like ability right there, completing the Holy Trinity, except for healing in MMOs. Eagle is accuracy, and it cares about movement speed. Centipede is buffs and debuffs and cares about damage over time, poison, and crowd control effects. There's new keywords in with this class. There are new abilities with this class. There are new play styles with this class. Like, for instance, Gorilla cares about a skill, cares about not a skill, but like percentage of retribution, which is a new keyword, new passive, ferocity if you're playing as a jaguar, so it cares about new items, new things, new weapons that have been built from the ground up for this class. And then with the class mod, you can combine one or two of them. You can combine one, either double shot one of the familiars or mix and match to get a little bit more playstyle. So this actually can constitute like 5 to 6 different styles of gameplay and 5 to 6 different types of builds on top of anything else involved. Like you can combine all the guardians. You can do one jaguar and the main jaguar and have a gorilla for that speed and power with the tank, or you can just do gorilla and go gorillas on the gorillas. And then like you go for the centipede and the eagle, you have a damage over time with high damage via vulnerable damage. So if you focused in on vulnerable damage and you are mixing centipede and the eagle together, you're getting damage over time that is actually caring about vulnerable. And when you get that whole pack of vulnerable, they just melt immediately. Itemization is hybridization, power augmentation, sub-power, and unique items. The torments aspect, poisons and throws. The brushling vengeance is payback deals extra damage. So one of the skills is payback is if you've got dealt damage, you can give damage back, more damage back. So that particular aspect cares about that. Pestiler Swarm spawns additional swarms, and the swarms deal damage as well. So, Pestilence Swarm does that. Scorn of the Earth is like one of the weapons that they showed, one of the armors, and it makes everything, and it makes evade your swarm ability. So kind of like how in season 2 with the vampires, where season 3 with the vampires, I forgot what season it was the odd one. You can become a bat while dodging. You do the same thing, but that replaces your evade ability, so now your evade has a little bit more kick to it. And then there's like one that makes every attack buffed as the final hit in a combo. And this particular guardian does a 3-hit combo, and the last hit is always the most powerful. It just turns that last hit into every hit in the combo. So it's like a spin kick to the jaw every time instead of the 2 punches and the kick. People asked why not new class from the previous games. They wanted to try something new, and they already had from something different. They already have ported the Barb, the Necro, the Sorcerer, and the Druid from 2 and 3 into 4. So we already have those legacy characters, if you will. They will be using glaives, double-bladed polearms, and quarterstaffs. So there's that monk reference again. And Witch Doctor. A difference between Druid and the Spiritborn, and this was key if you didn't know. Druids become the animal. Spiritborns only conjures the spirit, and that spirit then leaves. You do not become the spirit with the Spiritborn. You just are using the spirit to pump you up or debuff or lower them down. And the Vessel of Hatred, remember, you get to see Vessel of Hatred August 20th at Gamescom. All right, so that was most of the Spiritborn. Now, Grinding Gear Games, an hour later, dropped their presentation for their new season of Path of Exile 2. And I'll go into Path of Exile 2 before I start dropping. I've played this game almost since the beginning. Very, very infrequently until a couple of years ago. I would play it. I started when there was only like an act or 2 in the game, and very early on. And but there would be like a gap of like a year or two where I wouldn't play it. I'd check back in and be like, all right, it's getting there, or it's still good. And then one of the gaps that I took is the gap that completely changed the game forever. In that span of time, so much happened that I missed an entirety. Missed it in entirety. Then it became ported. Then they ported the console on the Xbox. And I did my damnedest, and I'm not an expert at it, but I still love the game for its insane depth. I also despise the game for the for the massive amounts of content in the game, and I will get to that part. Oh no, how can you be mad at a free-to-play game with tons of content? Every season that you start, okay, in Path of Exile, you have access to almost every other piece of seasonal content released in that season. It is content bloat if you've never experienced this game before. I say this game is almost damn near impossible for new players to fully grasp and get into. And it sucks because this game is fan-fucking-tastic and has been for years. You have access to all 13, 14 seasons worth of stuff, from delves to heists to... I can't even remember it all, and I barely play. And to get to upper tier content mapping, which is endgame, to get to the highest level tier of that, you kind of have to like dedicate a lot of time to get there, to grind the necessary currency in the game out. Because that's the other thing. The game has a lot of currency, and they all do different things. Like, orbs of fusing can make more gears, can make more sockets into your armor pieces, and weapons. And then chromatic orbs can change the color of those sockets. That being, you have a class like, say, barbarian. That barbarian doesn't have any inert skills. Instead, it has all gems based off of that you get your skills from, and you can level those gems up by using them. So you could combine and mix and match and link up your sockets and gear to get more powerful effects. And then we get to the status board, which actually does affect your strength and your numbers and your character, and it is massive. Okay, it is a massive Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy X, for those that don't do the X or X2 style board. And you can get lost in the sauce very easily between the skill gems, the gear, what type of gear you need, what type of gems do you need. The story is amazing. The content is great. The end game I've barely touched in all my years of playing. And here's the other thing too, like, it's not really optimized for Xbox One. It's definitely there for S and X. I noticed an immediate improvement, not just visually, when I started playing the game again when I got my Xbox X. Speed too. You need a really good internet connection, just like you do in Diablo 2 Resurrected, because I would get stuck on the Duriel fight, because by the time it would load, I was already dead during the loading screen. But I was still watching the loading screen even though the fight was going on. Same thing kind of was happening with Path of Exile, where it's too much for the Xbox One to hold up. Second I got the X, though, I started noticing an improvement in how little I wasn't dying anymore. I still die, and one of my biggest gripes is after level 70, every time you die, it's an XP loss. You can't lose a level, but you could lose all the accrued levels. All the XP you've earned to gain the next level, you can lose. And I hate that about it, because that's the reason why my highest leveled character is like 83 ever. You need to dedicate some time. You need to take literal courses on builds and what to do. And how to play the game, and it's a lot to take in, especially if you're a new player. But if you give it a chance, you will find one amazing action RPG that for the longest time deserved the crown of best ARPG on the planet, dethroned Diablo 3, and I love that game, but definitely just dethroned it on how hardcore it is, but it's leaned into too hardcore for my liking nowadays. But that being said, they dropped their new season, and it's everybody's calling it the season of ships. And now you can basically create a village, use resources to build the village up, to send ships out to the mainland, because you're in a place called Oriath and you're stuck in there for the most part, and then you're way away from the mainland. Now you can actually have ships travel to and from the mainland and Oriath, and in this expansion you can get rewards for doing that and pumping up more. You can pump more crew up so they don't get sunk or taken over, or pirated, if you will. You can do a lot of things in this expansion, and they literally have the patch notes that are coming out day one of this game. One of the most prominent Path of Exile streamers, Zizaran, it took him 3 hours to read the patch notes. 3 hours to read the patch notes. They've completely changed everything. They even brought melee as best as they can back into the game, because one of the problems with Path of Exile is melee, and I play archers too, you need totems, and what they do is they will be attached to like ballista armor totem, and I will have like my toxic arrows there, and I will just lay down totems that will fire the arrows for me, and I just kind of sit back and do nothing. Melee classes were the same thing. You would just pump out like 5 totems and then just let them beat up on the enemies and just kind of set it and forget it and walk away. They wanted to bring the actual act of hitting an enemy with your weapon, especially if you're a melee build, back to Path of Exile. And from what I've been gathering, remember, it was a huge patch list, and it took, as I said before, Zizaran 3 hours to read through it on stream. It's in depth. They've changed a lot, and that's another thing that Path of Exile does. To their credit and discredit, they will completely at random change the game, how it plays, how your builds play, how your your top tiers will always be adjusted. Even small stuff will be nerfed or changed completely or reworked. And this is not the 8th or 10th, 9th or 10th time they've done this. They've done this plenty of times where they've changed the game up. And this one is so extensive that it just takes a while to breathe it in, man. And once again, leading into why Path of Exile is one of the best and worst content bloat hardcore games out there. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for saying that, but you got to understand, I have almost 500 hours in Path of Exile, okay, on console. And a lot of that is from the Xbox One, where even with plugging it in, the speeds weren't all that great, and the load times were kind of shit, and I was getting joyed a lot of the time. And since I got my Xbox X, I've been playing a little bit more, and it's still good, but I am still lost. I have to look up build guides on top of other build guides to learn what this build is doing. Like you could take a collegiate course in Path of Exile, and it would span at least 5 classes worth of college material just to understand the game at this point, which is why a lot of people are waiting for the second game to come out, because it's a fresh new start. Because the boarding on process, the new player experience for Path of Exile 1 is shit. And that's no fault of grinding gear games, which is no fault at all. And I do say it is free to play. Cosmetics, obviously, you have to pay for. They do offer a lot that. You do have to pay stash tabs, but there is no way you can buy weapons or extra abilities or power. They even joke about it every now and again. They were accused of being pay to win, even though you can only buy stashes and whatnot, stash tabs and cosmetics. So they made the pay to win emote, and it's a fireworks display going up above your head, and then they donated all that money to a good charitable organization. Like, that's how Grinding Gear does, but that's also how they pay the bills. And when you've been successfully making content for a game for 10 years now and working on the second one, I'm not opposed to paying, and I have paid for my fair share of tabs. No cosmetics, but I have paid for my fair share of tabs just so I can trade with other players, and so I can also have access to maps easier, or my currency easier, or gems, or just have a spot to put all my gems in a little easier spot. So the next season's coming out in a couple days. It's going to be massively huge, and I will go right now to my phone to try to look up Path of Exile stuff, because there's been a lot of seasons, and I don't know what seasons are available from the start. They're called leagues, but we all call them seasons. Permanent leagues. These 4 leagues exist permanently. They're standard. There's hardcore, solo self-found, and solo self-found hardcore. Solo self-found is you not being able to use the trading board and you only using the gear that you find. Hardcore is one death and you're done, but Path of Exile has done it different. Hardcore has the modifier meaning characters who die are moved to standard. Hardcore is equivalent to permadeath in other RPGs, though characters and items are not automatically deleted. You gain a lot more currency and gear in hardcore for Path of Exile. So instead of killing your character off and never seeing them again, they at least put it in standard mode with some of that gear. So, and Settlers of Calgar is the next expansion that's coming out in the 26th of August. So here's the thing. Challenge leagues, temporary leagues, have a set duration which can... challenge leagues, which is their seasons. Periodically, 2 new leagues are created, and the previous 2 challenge leagues are removed. These leagues are intended to introduce and test new content while providing players with a fresh economy. Challenge leagues are currently released on a 13-week cycle. In addition, each pair of leagues has a set of optional challenges that can be completed for prizes. When a league ends, all characters and their stats will be sent to their respective parent league, either standard or hardcore. Map progress will be transferred along with shaped maps and sextants. That's the endgame content. So it looks like they actually addressed the bloat issue that I had earlier. No, they didn't. Okay. So this is the leagues that are available right now. List of challenge leagues. Settlers of Calgar is next. Necropolis is the one that actually was kind of a miss. Affliction was a little bit of a miss. I missed Ancestor, Crucible, the Forbidden Sanctum, Lake of Caldera, Sentinel, Arch Nemesis. I played Scourge, Expedition, Ultimatum, missed Ritual, Heist, Harvest. I played Harvest, Delirium, Metamorph, Blight, Legion. Synthesis I played, Betrayal, Delve I played heavily. Bestiary I played, Abyss, Harbinger, Legacy, Breach, Essence, Prophecy, Perdamus, Talisman, Warbands, Tempest, Torment, Bloodlines, Rampage Beyond, Ambush Invasion, Domination, Nemesis, Anarchy Onslaught. Now, Anarchy Onslaught, which was the last one I listed, was dropped in 2013. I came around basically around the Bestiary and the Abyss era. That's when I started playing in 2017, 2018 again. Delve I played heavily. But here's the problem. When you start a new league, like when Settlers of Calgar drops, you're going... and you go into the Settles of Calgary League, unless they've changed it and they didn't say anything they did, you're going to have access to that. You're going to have access to Necropolis, Affliction, Crucible, Ancestor, the Forbidden Sanctum, the Lake of Caldra stuff, Arch Nemesis, Scourge, Expeditions, Ultimatums, Heists, Harvest, Delirium, Blights, Legion, Synthesis, Betrayal, Delve, Incursion, Beastery, Abyss. You're going to have access to all of that in the same league. That is where my problem lies, where you get lost in the sauce, you get confused, you get, what am I doing now? Do I just blast through the 10x and then start hitting endgame content and then go back to all the other stuff later? Whereas I have to have 2 monitors up, one for my build, one to see where I'm at, one to play the game. That's my biggest issue. And if they only do selected, or just singular league where it's just that league mechanic, I'd be a little bit happier. And it's been my biggest complaint about the game. And one of the main reasons why I don't talk about it, because I do love the game. I really do. It may sound like my rant of how content bloat in seasons, league seasons in Path of Exile are not good, but trust, it's just out of respect, because I do love, I have put the hours into the game. I still play the game. I just played it earlier today. So I wouldn't be playing it if I didn't like it. But once again, if it's an issue that I'm having with the game, I'm going to say what that issue is, because not everything's perfect. I am allowed to complain a little bit about awesome games with some slight flaws. And I've always felt the content bloat in Path of Exile is its biggest flaw, because giving it access to everything eternally, forever, becomes a problem when your new league starts and Delve, Heist, Atlases, the Temple, the Necromancer, the Necropolis, the Affliction, it's a lot to go through. So I'm hoping they at least slow it down a little bit, or just make this particular league one of the only mechanics in there. Now I can see if they add a couple other mechanics, a couple leagues into the season, the Caldor League, the Boat League. But if it's a start, if it's a new start, let's make it a little bit easier on the new player experience. And we haven't even gone into the currency yet. Yeah, like you have like your scroll of identification, map scrolls, and those are like a penny. You don't pay for them. Like, what I'm going to say right now, okay, is it's done currency right. The gold does not drop in this game at all. You're not going to kill a wildebeest and have 1,000 gold drop from it. Okay, you're going to kill that wildebeest and you may have a piece of armor. You may have a scroll of identity drop from it, or a map scroll, or any of the number of currency items, and currency items that drop from enemies that can be used to enhance your weapons, but mainly used as a basis of trade. Okay, so the cornerstone for the longest time, and this is when I first got back into the game, was Orbs of Chaos, and they basically increase a standard item to a rare. Okay, I'm sorry. It reforges a rare item with new random modifiers. Okay, and you can have them in stacks of 10. And they start dropping relatively late-ish in the game. It is the base currency. For me, it would be like the equivalent of $1. Just $1 bill. The map would be a nickel. The scroll of identity would be a penny. This is not anybody else is saying, but this is just how it kind of, and you don't pay money for these. I need to re-emphasize that for like the 5th fucking time. This is just how you would feel. Exalted orbs would be like $10, like divine orbs would be $100, in this currency. So you use those currencies to trade with other players. And there's the trade board, and they will put their items up, and they'll be like, I want 3 chaos for this. And if you have 5 chaos, you can say, okay, cool, I need that item. Let's do the 3 chaos. Or I need 2 exalted orbs for this amazing 6-linked piece item. You're going to have to wait a while to get that exalted orb, or give them like 300 chaos orb for it. But I've always felt the trading in Path of Exile has been done right. Now, it's been min-maxed to death. But what do you expect when the game's been out for over 10 years at this point? And once again, this is like why you need multiple monitors to play this game if I'm playing on console. Just because I need a window open for PoE Ninja, just so I can just so I can type in the rare legendary armor that just dropped to see if it's worth a damn or not, because I can't remember anything. If it's not worth a damn, just put it on, sell it back to the vendor. I know I just said a horrible thing, but space, man, I have X amount of space to give. But as I'm saying, with Path of Exile, I'm going to play, it seems like I'm going to play this a lot more than Season 5 of Diablo until Vessel of Hatred comes out, which I still got to pre-order next month, but that's a next month problem. That's a next month's problem for me, not a current problem for me. So yeah, what an amazing crap show of a podcast this turned out to be. I yammered on about Diablo 4 Season 5, Spiritborn. I rambled on about Path of Exile and barely talked about Magic the Gathering. But my name's Dom Douglas, the back-to-back commentator of the year for XWW, and may your top deck always be mythic.